Now let's talk about a topic that you'll hear on the exam, you'll hear it in the real world, and this topic is security filtering. Now when we're working with group policy objects, remember that a group policy object is going to apply to every single member of a site, a domain, or an OU, depending on what that group policy is applied to. Now what if there are users in the site, domain, or OU that you don't want to apply the GPO to? Well, there's a way that you can take care of this problem. One of the solutions is that you could just create a new site, domain, or OU just for those two users and separate them from everybody else. Maybe not. Or you could just use what's called security filtering to determine exactly who the GPO is applied to. Now understand, a GPO can only be applied to users or groups when they have the proper permissions on the GPO. And they have to be able to read the GPO, and they have to have the apply group policy or AGP permission as well. Now all GPOs have read and AGP set to allowed for the authenticated users group. And authenticated users includes both users and computers. So as a result, if they're a member of the domain, site, OU that the GPO is applied to, and then they're a part of it, authenticated users, they get the GPO. Now let's talk about how we can modify the security filters on groups, users, and computers and change this permission, and we can do it on the Scope tab of a GPO. So let's jump out there, and I have the Group Policy Management tool already open. And what I want to show you is right down here, for example, this VTC class demo GPO that I created, I don't know, a few topics back. Notice the security filtering for this is authenticated users. Well, I want this to apply only to certain people. So I'm going to take authenticated users out. Now notice this thing is applied, okay? If I look up here to the VTC class demo, I'll click OK. This thing is applied to the domain VTC AD class, okay? Well, I can come down here and notice where it's applied to the class, it's going to all authenticated users. I can remove that, and then I can add the people or the groups that I want it to be applied to. So for example, I can go to Advanced, and I'll go to Find, and I can choose from my list of everybody out there. Okay, well, I can say, you know what, apply this to anybody in the sales group in that GPO, or anybody in the sales group that's in this particular domain. This would work better for an OU actually. And then notice I can even add individual users. And so I'll just click Find now and get all of them, and I'll go down here and grab Jane Jones and say OK. And so now if the users are in sales, and if Jane Jones is there, the sales people in that group and Jane Jones in the domain are going to get the VTC AD class group policy object that I created, the VTC class demo. I'm sorry, right there it is. So that's who's going to get it. So security filtering lets me decide exactly which users or groups that are a part of the site, domain, or OU that the group policy object is attached to actually gets the settings in that object. Hope this makes sense. You might have to go through and listen to it a couple of times, but that's how to really control with security filtering exactly who in that domain, site, or OU gets the GPO applied.